It says my full name, then it asks me not to go home at 3:17 a.m. If you felt your stomach drop, you're not alone. That line came from audio I haven't deleted. Tonight, I'm sharing allegedly true submissions, names changed, locations blurred, told how they were experienced, up close, and a little too personal. They make you notice reflections, check locks twice, and hear the house breathe. We're moving from public spaces to private ones, from human danger to something that doesn't blink, from open roads to rooms that shouldn't exist. 5 of the scariest true stories I've ever received, and the last one still keeps me up. I'm here to tell you what people swear happened to them and why they don't sleep right. If you listen all the way through, you'll catch patterns, times that repeat, details that shouldn't line up, threads that tie one voice to the next. Breathe now. This starts small, where the coffee is burnt, the neon hums, and the night feels routine, right up until it doesn't. We begin on a rural highway, mile 43, at a diner that closes when the sun comes up, and a customer no camera can see. He orders coffee he never touches. On nights when the highway is a black ribbon and the neon open sign cracks like a nervous eye, the diner at mile 43 belongs to me and the cicadas. The parking lot smells like hot tar and diesel. Inside, it's burnt coffee air, red vinyl that sticks to your elbows, chrome catching the color of the jukebox even when it's off. I work the late shift because it pays the extra $1 and because the night is honest with you. Someone's coming, you hear the bell on the door. Someone's leaving, you hear their boots. The in-between, the lull between 2 and 4 is mine. I refill sugars. I count till. I listen to the fluorescent hum like a hive in the ceiling. He was just there one night, already seated at the back corner booth, the one under the dead slice of mirror. We have this long mirror that runs behind the booths, a leftover from when this place tried to be a cocktail lounge. In that corner, years ago, someone replaced a cracked panel with dull sheet metal. It eats reflections. From the counter, you can see everybody twice, except whoever sits there. I didn't hear the bell. I didn't see headlights pull in. 1 second I was scraping the grill, the next there was a man in that shadowy booth, hands folded on the formica like he'd been waiting politely all along. Coffee. I said, because that's what you say? He nodded without looking up. He had eyes like wet gravel, gray and shiny, and wrong in the way that makes you want to be polite. I poured. The pot sputtered. The steam smelled like burned toast. He didn't touch the cup. He just watched it like it was a candle. I told myself truckers have weird habits. I told myself not to stare. Then he said, soft, like he was reminding me of something I'd asked him to say, "You clock out at 4?" I looked down at my empty breast pocket, where my name tag should have been if the pin hadn't broken. We don't post ours for staff anywhere customers can read. Long night, I said, playing it light. He blinked. No, he didn't. He shifted his gaze. I realized I hadn't seen his lids move once. The neon flickered behind me. Orange buzzed along the counter. And in the dead metal panel where his reflection should be sat there was nothing but a dim smear of me and the ghost of the window across. You take the trash out at 3:17, he said. Don't. My throat squeezed around a laugh that didn't come. Guessing's a bold hobby. He smiled like I'd said something sweet. I backed away under the pretense of hunting ketchup bottles. In the kitchen, I told myself a dozen stupid reasons. A regular I didn't recognize. A friend of Earl's playing a joke. Someone watching me from the lot and confabulating confidence. The friar coughed. The clock above the pass read 2:59. When I went back with a plate of lemon pie he hadn't ordered. He was still, hands just so, eyes on the coffee he wasn't drinking. The air felt colder at that booth. The jukebox light wavered. I set the pie down and watched his face, counting off in my head. 10 seconds. 20. 30. No blink. Not even a twitch when a moth thumped the light over us and spun. "You want a refill before?" I'm op?" I asked. "Habit? Distraction? Don't go out at 3:17, he said again, like we were repeating a line from a play. Please. The please did it. It made it feel human, like he knew something ugly and was trying to keep me off its teeth. I brought the check at 3:05, tucked under the edge of the plate. The coffee was still steaming. He was gone. No bell, no boots, it's just that booth. Empty lemon pie, untouched, and the air in my throat like ice water. "Earl?" I called to the kitchen. "You see him leave?" Earl lumbered out, wiping his hands. "You alone, kid." We checked the cameras because of course we did. Grainy black and white feeds from the corners, the timestamp rolling on like a heartbeat. At 2:53, my shoulder in the frame, pot of coffee in my hand. At 3:05, me setting a check at an empty booth. There was a cup, a plate, and me. The cup was hot enough to fog my glasses. On the napkin beneath it, someone had pressed a time, 3:17, in blocky letters. Beneath that, one word I hadn't heard since my father's funeral, Junebug. He was the only one who called me that. He'd say it quiet when I came home late and try not to sound scared. Seeing it there made my scalp crawl, made something in me 8 years old again and waiting for the door to open. I flipped the napkin over like it might burn. Outside, the highway hissed. Inside, the clock hummed toward 3:17 like it had a destination. I locked the back door. I didn't take out the trash. I watched the booth, expecting a shadow to fold itself back into being. Nothing happened. That was the worst part. I still work the shift. I still don't sit in that booth. To this day, when the cup steams by itself, I keep the doors shut and the curtains half drawn. Because if a stranger can feel that close across a countertop, you don't want to think about what it's like when they re-standing just outside your bedroom window? If a stranger can feel that close across a countertop, imagine what it is like when you realize someone's been standing just outside your bedroom window. Neon becomes bedroom darkness, and the thing louder than your heartbeat is proof you didn't ask for. Not a hunch. Photos. Framed shots of your house from angles you can't stand in, inching closer night after night. A trail cam meant for raccoons, a second SD card you weren't supposed to find. And one picture that turns on a light you swore you left off. The first mistake I made as a homeowner was thinking the raccoons were my problem. I just moved into a faded little ranch with an honest yard, chain, link fence, cracked bird bath, one oak that throws acorns like hail. The trash kept getting raided, so I strapped a trail cam to the back fence. Night one, I went to bed with the AC humming and that fragile new owner calm. Morning, the first photo wasn't a raccoon, it was my bedroom window, dead centered, shot from a height I couldn't reach without a ladder. The timestamp glowed. The composition was too clean. It felt like the house was watching itself. I told myself some bored kid had hopped the fence. I tightened the strap, added a cable lock, dusted flour at the base to catch prints. Night two, the compressor kicked on, and I pictured bandits in masks. Morning, more photos of my window, closer, almost level with the upper sash, like 2 careful steps toward glass. The strap hadn't moved. The flower was a perfect white belt, no prints. I started noticing the composition, the frame drawing a line to my bedside lamp, the streetlight making the curtains thin. Night 3, I turned the lamp off. The pictures adjusted, perfectly exposed. One caught a sliver of bark in the lower left, rough and wet. The oak. That's when I went looking. I walked the yard at dusk. The AC unit rattled and blew hot air at my shins. I crouched to clear a dead leaf and felt my fingers stick to something gummy under the housing. Duct tape. Pressed into it, a black micro SD card wedged in the shadow where no one would casually look. Inside, I slid it into my laptop with hands I couldn't keep steady. Folders named by date, months before I'd closed. Hundreds of photos of my windows, doors, side gate, always too centered, always the house. A few low-race videos. The last clip opened on a gloved hand, leather creaking, as dirt spilled in. The lens sank at the base of the oak. The timestamp read 3:17 a.m. I dug there with a shovel. 6 inches down I hit plastic, a weatherproof capsule, snow card. Whoever buried it had come back for the memory, then stashed the prize under my AC like a drop. I stood in my yard with dirt on my hands and felt the house watching me from every window. Called the police because I wanted an adult in the room. 2 uniforms came, one older, one new. The older one looked at my fence, looked at my face, and shrugged. Neighbor dispute, exes, contractors, install motion lights, change your locks. They promised an extra drive by and left me with a case number. I did all of it. While running a cable, I lifted a framed print and found 2 tiny screw holes hidden behind it and a faint ring where adhesive had dulled the paint. Above the kitchen doorway, the plaster had twin pinpricks, perfectly spaced. Like a pair of eyes had once lived there and blinked away. The last image is the one I can't shake. I was at work when my phone pinged, motion alert. The trail cam had captured my bedroom window. The lamp was on. I never leave it on. I texted my neighbor, sent back a sidewalk shot of my curtains glowing. Police arrived to lock doors, latched windows, nobody inside. I sleep with my keys by the bed now. You can lock a window. You can T-lock an elevator that decides to open on a floor. Your house swears dose and tea exist. Once you hear a building breathe, you understand how many places you trust by habit and how fragile that trust really is. You can lock a window. You can't lock an elevator. Especially when it opens to a floor your hospital swears doesn't exist. The difference between being watched and being misplaced is the moment doors slide back and numbers skip. The air smells older. The bulbs hum a half second out of rhythm. A hallway that shouldn't be there waits under yellowed signs, and your own name sits on a chart dated years before you were hired. Step out or press close. It's either way, the world has shifted one notch slightly left. Everyone on nights jokes about how our hospital skips the 13th floor, because fear is cheaper than steel, and elevators don't have a button for superstition. At 3 a.m. though, the waxed halls smell like lemon and cotton, the vents breathe. And you feel how big the building is when it wants silence. I was on a quick med run to 5, plastic bin on my hip, watching the red numbers climb. 2, 3, 4, then a soft hesitation like the elevator forgot how to count. A smaller chime than usual pinged, the doors parted, and a dim corridor waited under yellowed bulbs and a metal wall plate that simply said 13. The air was cooler and dry, antiseptic without bite, like a room opened after years. Baseboards were taller, the floor mat and the nurse station had that rounded edge from old photos in alumni displays. A binder lay open on the counter, pages rippled, and there, in careful blue script, my stomach snagged on 2 words: Parades, Nora. Admit date: October 13th, 1994. Smoke inhalation, bed 13B. I was born in 1996, yet the handwriting made me feel like I'd already been here, seen, charted, and filed. Far away, something beeped unevenly, not our fussy digital tones. More like a kitchen timer losing patience. And I said hello, because that's what night nurses do when authority feels thinner than air. Room 13B stood ajar, blinds tilted like eyelids. A shape lifted under a thin blanket, then sank flat, as if breath had been unhooked from whatever held it down. Nora, someone whispered right beside my ear, close enough that my hair moved and my bin edge bit into my palm, because I didn't want to drop anything and prove I was shaking. I stepped into the doorway, and the room felt scorched without marks. Paint bubbled near the chair rail, a faint soot circle darkening the vent, and a yellowed clock over the sink frozen at 3:17. I said nope out loud, which made me sound alive. Backed away, palmed the stair bar, and pushed through a door that groaned like it hadn't moved since the last drill. I counted steps because numbers quiet panic to flights. Then the landing sign insisted I was on 3 and then 2, though I'd only meant to go down once. The door opened onto fluorescent normal, printers spitting, monitors chirping, and Tanya at the desk, squinting at me like I'd vanished into a closet. "Where'd you go?" she asked. "Pharmacy's calling," and I heard myself say, "Elevator hung up," because the truth would have sounded like I denapped between dimensions. Facilities humored me and rode with me later, the tech jabbing 12 and then 14 to show there's no mispressing. No Secret Service toggle, just doors that open onto whoever deserves them. Security pulled the camera feeds too. My ride is closed, doors gliding, my shoulders reflected, nothing strange, except the way the time code jittered when the cab paused. I could have let it be, but the basement smells like damp paper and answers. So on my day off I found plans proving there was a 13th once, a med-surg wing between towers. The microfiche clippings told the rest. Electrical fire, heavy smoke, closure, a casualty list in shrunken type that scrolled like a memorial until my eyes stopped. Parade S. Nora, it said. Minor, smoke inhalation, fatal. And I stared at my own hands like they were borrowed from a girl who hadn't learned to breathe yet. Maybe it's another Nora, maybe a typo. Maybe the building keeps its stories the way bodies keep scars you can see until the light hits wrong. I take the stairs now. Walls trap you, deserts erase you. If walls can trap you, the open desert can erase you. This next one starts as a quick cash gig and turns into the worst 40 minutes of someone's life. No neighbors, no cell bars, just wind and a road that doesn't remember you. 2 trailers, a shipping container, and evidence nobody meant to leave behind. Faces washed in headlight glare, a pattern in Polaroids, and a name whispered over the sand. When trucks crest the hill, you learn how wide a place can be and still have nowhere to hide. I took the Cleanout because rent was due, and the ad said cash on completion. No questions. Coordinates? Not an address. The road turned to corrugated dirt and heat shimmer, my hatchback rattling like loose change. Tucson, bleached trailer slumped beside a listing water tank, and a shipping container squatted like a rusted tooth. Wind chimes made of keys hung from a bent hook, notes clicking like air-chewing secrets. I signed the taped note, pay on pickup Ray, and started with the trailers. Air, like a hairdryer. Brittle magazines, jars of screws, beer tabs, lottery scratches, a coil of rope. Nothing that felt like a story. The container door fought me, then sighed. Inside was cooler and orderly in a way that made my neck prickle. Steel shelves, plastic totes labeled by month, and 3 clotheslines of Polaroids clipped end to end down the wall. Faces. People caught in the hard rectangle of flash. Pupils blown, mouths slightly open, night behind them. Scrub, chain, link, gravel. The angle barely changed from shot to shot, as if obeying a rule. Every few images, a plate, a hood, hands on a wheel. In Sharpie, dates, letters, a number, circled here and there, like entries in a catalog. I kept telling myself, art project, creep, dump it. Then I found me. 3rd line, 6 from the end. Me squinting, hand lifted against glare, my hatchback angled by the yucca at the bend I'd just parked by. Same shirt, same sweat collar. The film was still warm. I hadn't heard an engine, hadn't seen dust from a second set of tires. Outside, the key chimes ticked twice and went still, like the breeze pressed its finger to its lips. Engines rose and fell over the ridge, two moving fast. I killed my phone light and flattened behind a painter's tarp I hadn't noticed. Taped top and bottom to make a shallow false wall between shelf and steel. It rasped my cheek while I slid sideways into that narrow pocket. Voices arrived before beams. Men using their inside-outside voices meant to travel just far enough. The new ones parked by the yucca container first. The door yawned. Light cut a seam beside my face. A boot scuffed. Metal pinged softly as weight shifted. Someone stood where my breath fogged the tarp and tapped the container wall in a measured rhythm. 3 taps. Pause. 1. Pause. 7. The pattern crawled straight through bone. A gloved hand pressed flat against the plastic until the tape creaked. "Leave it," another voice said from the doorway, bored as weather. "We'll come out. They'll do." Footsteps paced the perimeter, slow and patient, like they were teaching the box how big it was. I waited until the engines idled to a dull argument and the gray of almost morning seeped in around the edges. Time lost its numbers. My legs turned to pins. I thought about bursting out and sprinting into the brush. But the distance between me and the door felt like a mouth that might close. When birds finally started up and the light went blue, I unpeeled myself, slid out, and walked without looking anywhere but the ground to my car. I drove until other cars existed. By afternoon, the ad was gone. Ray's number rang once and died. The next day, it was disconnected. I told myself I'd imagined the tapping, the photo of me, the way the keys went quiet all at once. 3 weeks later, a plain envelope arrived with cash to the dollar and a single Polaroid. My hatchback easing down that road, brake lights smeared red against black. Timestamp, 3:17 a.m., dawn, I thought. I hope it was. And if open country can make you feel that scene, imagine what it's like when the room gets small and a voice knows your name, your coffee, and your address before you say hello. You've heard being watched, now hear being known. Last story is the one I wish was fake. Trade desert wind for a headset and a blinking console. The loudest thing is your breath in the cups. A line opens without ringing. A whisper says your full name, your nickname, the exact coffee on your desk. The trace crawls in circles, pinning the call to your own address while you're on shift. The log shows a timestamp that won't stop returning. 3:17 a.m. and the recording. The console lit without a ring, and which is wrong in a room where every sound is scripted. It was 2 in the morning on a Tuesday, AC grumbling through ducts, the map screen washing my hands blue. I adjusted my headset, breathed, and said the line I've said 1,000 times. The return wasn't panic or static. It was a quiet so clean it felt edited, and then a whisper that knew exactly who I was. Down to syllables, breaths, it said my full name, first, middle, last, pronouncing the middle like my mother did when I'd tracked mud in. Then it said the childhood nickname I haven't heard outside family in years, Bean. No question, no hello, just that. And then, calm as inventory. It described the exact coffee sitting beside my keyboard. Gas. Station hazelnut, 2 sugars, 1 creamer, still in the paper cup with a cracked red lid. I hadn't said a single word yet, not one breath. Training is a reflex. I opened a new CAD card, asked for the caller's location, nature of emergency. The whisper didn't answer, just repeated my name once, softer, like a hand on a shoulder. The trace populated by itself, a blue dot sliding onto the map. The address field filled with my apartment, my own street. I pictured my couch in the dark and the cheap hallway light bleeding under my door. My mouth was dry. I toggled mute, unmuted. Supervisor on nights was Maya. I waved, pointed at the screen. She rolled over, watched the timer tick with no ANI, no alley, and frowned like she'd misplaced something important. We pulled the trunk logs after the line went dead. There was no call record, just a fragment the system labeled phantom. 3 minutes flat at 3:17 a.m. No. Source field empty, route unknown, audio present. Glitch, Maya said, but she didn't sound convinced. She told me to breathe. I tried. I called my partner Jules, who was driving home from a late shift. Humor me, I said, and gave them the address they already knew. While I kept my headset on, the whisper said my name again, Bean, and listed the pictures stuck under the corner of my monitor. Jules texted video from the hallway. Our door locked, chain set, no light under the threshold. They knocked. Nothing. Somewhere on the open line, I heard my keys rattle. At my desk, unmoving. After shift, eyes full of sand. I scrolled my missed calls and found a voicemail time-stamped 20 minutes before I even clocked in. Unknown. I pressed play in the parking lot. My voice came out of my phone, flat, compressed, a copy of me from a place I didn't remember being. Don't come home at 3:17, I said to myself. Please. I could hear the room I know too well. Our fridge hum, our ticking kitchen clock. No traffic. We ran the number. There wasn't one. The console labeled subsequent calls, no origin. And they arrived like bills. Thursday nights, 3:17 on the dot. 3 minutes of a quiet that wasn't empty. Sometimes the whisper said my full name like a test. Sometimes it described what was on my screen. A call I hadn't yet answered. An address we'd dispatch 5 minutes later. Maya told me to log everything and not pick up off duty. I tried. Mostly once. The last one before I moved didn't whisper. It played a recording. I knew it was mine by the way my keyring sings against the deadbolt, the thunk of my door, the 3 heavy steps to the mat. The sound walked deeper into my place, then stopped. In the silence after my breath, another set began. Slower, lighter, not my cadence. Bare feet on wood, a soft drag, like someone listening to me listen. The line stayed open, waiting. I moved 2 months later, new locks, new mug, new route to work that skips my old exit. The calls didn't follow the address. They followed the calendar. Holidays bring them. Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, New Year's, morning. Always 3:17, always from no origin, always a voice that knows me past names and passwords. Dispatchers live on routine, and I've learned there's a shape to fear. Mine sounds like my own voice telling me not to come home. Some nights the world feels small and predictable. Diners, bedrooms, elevators, dusty roads, a desk with a blinking console, and then it kicks sideways. Tonight traced that tilt, public to private, open booths to shuttered blinds, wide desert to a metal box. Halls that shouldn't exist to a headset that won't stop listening. Human footprints turned to patterns. Warnings sounded like love. A number kept returning until it felt less like time and more like an address. What got me isn't just what happened, it's how ordinary the doorways were. A late shift, a backyard fix, a gig for quick cash, a routine med run, a call that starts like any other. You step through, and suddenly the coffee steams for no one. The window poses for a camera you didn't mount. The elevator forgets how to count. The wind goes quiet for trucks you never saw, and a voice you trust whispers your name from somewhere it shouldn't be. Tell me which one stuck with you, and why. Was it the emptiness in the booth, the perfect photos, the floor that's gone, the tapping on steel, or the voice that knows too much? I'm putting together a follow-up collection of true stories that live in the seams like these. If any details set off a memory, share it in the comments so we can learn the pattern before it learns us. Subscribe. If your phone says, unknown at 3:17, let it ring.